Good evening. Welcome to this evening's council meeting. It is the council meeting for April 24th, 2017. I'm Mayor Ted Schaefer, and with me are my council colleagues, Councillor Jack Arnold, Councillor Paul Albrecht, Councillor Rudy Stordaboom, Councillor Gail Martin, Councillor Val Vandenbroek, and Councillor Nathan Pahal. At the staff table, we have Darren Light, our Director of Corporate Services, Paula Cusack, Deputy Corporate Officer, Francis Chung, our Chief Administrative Officer. At the other table, we have Gerald Minchuk, Director of Development Services and Economic Development, Rick Baumhoff, Director of Engineering, Parks and Environment, and Kim Hilton, Director of Recreation, Culture and Community Services. I'll call this meeting to order, and the first item we have is a public hearing being convened pursuant to Section 464 of the Local Government Act in order to consider the following proposals. And it's a little lengthy, but I have to read it out. Bylaw 3017, Zoning Amendment and Development Permit DP 02-17. Purpose to amend the zoning bylaw 1996, number 2100, to add a new comprehensive development zone CD 46 to rezone the properties located at 5406, 5418, 5420, 198th Street, and 19829 to 19831 54th Avenue from RM1 multiple residency low density zone and RS1 to single family residential zone to CD46, comprehensive development zone to accommodate a 62 unit condominium apartment building. The next one is a bylaw number 3018, zoning amendment and development permit DP 04-17. It's to amend the zoning bylaw 1996 number 2100 to add a new comprehensive development zone CD47 and rezone the properties located at 5430 and 5640 201A Street from RM2 multiple residential medium density zone to CD47 comprehensive development zone to accommodate an 88 unit 5-story condominium apartment building. At this public hearing, the public will be allowed to make representations to council, and all persons present who believe that their interest in property is affected by the proposed bylaw and development permits shall be given a reasonable opportunity to be heard or to present written submissions respecting matters contained in the amendment. Those of you who wish to speak concerning the proposed bylaws and development permits, commence your comments to council by clearly stating your name and address. Then you may give us the benefit of your views concerning the amendment. Council members may, if they wish, ask questions of you following your presentations. However, the main function of council members this evening is to listen to the views of the public. It is not the function of council at this public hearing to debate the merits of the proposed bylaws and development permits with individual citizens. Everyone shall be given a reasonable opportunity to be heard at this meeting. No one will be or should feel discouraged or prevented from making his or her views heard. Any persons who wish to present a written submission to council may do so. All those submissions will be retained by the corporate officer, and copies of the submissions will be available from her on request following the hearing. And I'd like to ask the corporate officer how this was advertised.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Notices were sent to owners and occupiers within 100 meters of the subject properties, and advertisements were placed in the April 13th and 20th issues of the Langley Advance.
Thank you. And the first item we have is bylaw 3017, and this is for the 4-story unit complex at 5406, 5418, and 5420, 198th, and 19829 to 19831 54th Avenue. And it's Lucas from Keystone Architecture. Welcome.
Thank you. So the project is a 62-unit, 4-story wood frame apartment building on one level of concrete parkade. It's located on the corner of 198th Street and 54th Avenue. It's made up of 3 existing lots. 2 of those are duplex residential, and 1 of those is a single-family residential. This is a site plan. The main entry to the building is located off 54th Avenue down here, with a secondary entrance off of the lane to the north, next to the visitor parking stalls. Parkade entry is located off the lane as well at the east side of the property to keep it as far away from 198th Street intersection as possible. In addition to the indoor amenity space, we are also proposing a large outdoor amenity space up on the podium at first floor level. This is the underground parkade plan. We've provided 78 tenant parking stalls in the parkade. That, along with the 12 visitor stalls off the lane, meet the bylaw requirements for both the visitor and tenant parking. We've also provided 42 bike parkings in the parkade that meet the bylaw requirement. This is the first floor plan. We've provided the indoor amenity space on first and second floors. In total, we have 1,560 square feet of indoor amenity space, which meets the bylaw requirement. Second floor plan, amenity space in the same location. Third and fourth floor plans have storage rooms provided in those locations with storage lockers. We have 32 units in the building that have storage rooms within the individual units. In addition to that, we've provided 48 storage lockers in the building. The unit mix is a mix of studio, 1-bed, and 2-bed units, sizes ranging from 400 square feet up to 1,050 square feet. Exterior elevations. The exterior materials include hardy panel as the base material with accents of manufactured stone, some aluminum longboard siding, and stucco eaves cladding. South and west elevations, and the interior courtyard elevations. Colors include gray tones as the base colors, with brighter whites and wood grain tones to add some impact and visual interest. A few more renderings. From an OCP standpoint, the property is located down here in the corner in the brown area, which is designated as high-density residential area. The max density is 190 units per hectare. With our lot size, we're allowed to go to 62 units, which is what we're proposing. CPTED report was prepared by Liahona Security Consortium. Some of the principles that we incorporated in the design were clear viewing points of the entire property from the residential unit windows and balconies, secure underground parking for the residents, site lighting will evenly illuminate all public areas, natural access control. There are 2 clearly defined main entry points to the building. The raised platform stops unwanted access from the perimeter of the property, and the visitor entry at the lane will be secured and gated with intercom to restrict access to the courtyard area. The territoriality, each first floor unit has outdoor green space, which increases a sense of ownership. And maintenance and management, the owner will initiate programs such as a landscape maintenance program to avoid overgrowth, and a maintenance program to repair, remove vandalism or graffiti within 24 to 48 hours. Some other project features that the owner has agreed to. He's agreed that he will sprinkler the 4th floor balconies, which is not currently a code requirement, and there will be AC rough-ins provided for each unit. Handicap access, he's agreed to provide 4 handicap adaptable units in the building. Some sustainability measures that we incorporated: the bike parking I mentioned, 42 bike stalls in the parkade, as well as the 6 at the main entry for visitor parking. We've made allowance for 6 electric car stalls in the parkade. Will meet or exceed all new energy ash rate code requirements. Exterior lighting will be dark sky compliant using more energy efficient fixtures like LED, and the heat island effect. We've located the majority of the parking in the underground, limiting the amount of surface asphalt, and landscaping on top of the parkade where the building is not located. We held a public information meeting on February 28th. We sent out roughly 150 notices to the neighboring area. It was a fairly light turnout. We only had around 10 people show up. Generally, the attendees they're happy to see the development as an attractive neighborhood-friendly development. Some concerns that we heard were density in the neighborhood. We explained that we meet the OCP land use designation for high density, and increased traffic on 198th Street, and we've talked to our civil engineer. They're going to introduce some traffic calming measures along 198th Street to help that. It's a landscape plan. We try to focus on some buffering between the first floor patios and the street front, so we have some nice landscape screening between there. And you can see the large outdoor amenity space, large grass area, and a large patio congregating area for the tenants of the building. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone in the audience who deem their interest in property affected by the proposed bylaw? And if you'd like to come up and to the mic.
Stephen Radenick?
Yes.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Stephen Radnich. I live at 19824 54th Avenue, which will be directly across the street from this building. I was here for the meeting for the other condos, which was a lost battle. The traffic has got outrageous on 198th. Parking, I can't have people over to the house because there is no parking in front of my house anymore. The residents at the condos that are there now are very rude. They don't accommodate the residents that live on 54th Avenue. They just park wherever. I'm also wondering how this lighting is going to affect my home, because being that I face this building, I'll have to put some kind of blinders on my windows, which I shouldn't have to do, for the lights and that, which will be very disturbing. I'm an early morning worker. I work at a golf course, so I need the darkness at night so I can sleep, because I'm up at 4 in the morning to go to work, which will deeply affect me from what they're developing. So in closing, I would like to make sure that there is something done strictly about the parking and the lighting of the building, and also to accommodate the amount of traffic that runs up and down 198th right now is just atrocious. The speed. There's a park at one end, a school at the other end, and I even watch school buses pass cars going up and down 198th. It's just horrible. So if we could please get something done about that, if we can't do something about this building, because in my views, I wouldn't want it. Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation. And Mr. Chung will look at the, or address the issues on the speeding vehicles with our RCMP officer if this proposal goes through. Is there anyone else on the speakers list?
Yes, Pierre?
Hi, my name's Pierre. Recently living at 5406 198th Street. I'm a very concerned citizen. I'm a renter at that property. I've been there for 5 years. I like my freedom. I love living the life we should be living, like we've been living for our ancestors and all that. We should be able to grow our own veggies. Shouldn't be able to ask any question what should we do on our own property. We should have a little bit more freedom than what it is now. The way it's going, we're all going to be living like there'd be no burden years to come for the young children to know. No trees, nothing, 2, 3 little trees. You think that's going to accommodate all the, the livestock we got now? I got raccoon lives on my property. We all friendlies. Where's all the friends going to go? You ever thought about all that, where you develop these cities right now, the way you guys are doing it? It's not just that. It's our poor neighbor. They're going to live with that. Where are these guys really going to go when they get pushed in a corner? They already push into a corner. We don't need all that. Like you said, the parking, it's already bad. The crime around that area, it's worse than it's been. I've been there for 5 years. It's been awful. They only shut 200th Street last year for a couple months. You realize how bad that street was? It wasn't well known before. Now it's well known for traffic. Figure that one out in 2 years from now. They already got at the other corner start building. With this one start to now, figure it out what's going to happen in that corner. It's going to be hell. I won't be there. I'm glad. Thank you. I hope you all realize that. I'm just a renter, but I belong to this city. I've been living there for 31 years. And I've been working for the city of Langley, in Langley places. I worked for IPEX for 13 years, which is support Langley. Now I work for KCS Plastics for the last 10 years, which support Langley. And all that, I will have to move somewhere else. I'm 62 years old. Where am I going to go? What am I going to do? Think about that.
We appreciate you coming here, and it's, the applicant is not doing anything different or against the OCP.
renting in there?
That is up to the developer.
Unit or is that a sold unit?
That's up to the developer.
Can you answer me that question?
I'm not here to debate it. Thank you.
That's all I'd like to know.
Is
Can I answer
there
that? The intent is that's going to be market sale condos, not rental.
market sales?
There you go.
Market sales. Is there anyone else on the speakers list?
Dave Wallace?
Yeah, my name is Dave Wallace. I don't live on 198th Street. I live on 198A Street. And as the previous two applicants have stated, it's a zoo out there with the traffic. I mean, normally on an apartment building, if they're coming out of the garage, you have yellow on the curb where they can't park. I've almost been broadsided at least half a dozen times because that's the way I take to work. It's the shortest way to go to work on 198A Street. And people are, they're all parked up to the side. You need to widen the darn street if you're going to allow that many cars on it. I mean, it's getting ridiculous. I mean, we're just around the corner when you coming in with the bulldozers into my neighborhood. I'm not happy with it. I don't think there was enough development. I don't think the concern with the occupants of that zone was taken into consideration. Okay, that's it.
Thank you. To Mr. Minchuk, staff, how long has the OCP for this area been designated for this? Approximately?
Can you show that slide, Lucas? Mr. Mayor, in response to the OCP, the most recent OCP amendment completed on a comprehensive basis was completed in 2005.
Thank you. Is there anyone else on the speakers list, or
No, sir.
anyone else deem their interest in this property? Once, twice? Thank you. Next item we have is bylaw 3018. This is a zoning amendment bylaw to accommodate the units at 5630 and 5640 201A Street. And it's Colin, is it?
That's correct. Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name's Colin Hogan from Focus Architecture, and I'm the agent for this application. Our proposal is for an 88-unit apartment building. It's at 201A Street. You can see highlighted there between 56th and the Fraser Highway. It's the current site of two older apartment buildings. There's two 3-story apartment buildings that were located there with surface parking. One of them was involved in a fire about a little over a year ago, and it was burnt really beyond being able to be repaired. And so both of them now are in a state of demolition. This is the building that we're proposing. It's adjacent to a 4-story apartment building. It is in the downtown core, in a walkable district of the downtown core, where the OCP permits high buildings, high-rise structures. We're proposing a structure of 5 stories in height, wood frame construction, on top of 1 level of underground parking. See the colored rendering here indicating the height relationship to the building next door. It's very compatible with the building next door. We have some unique 2-level townhouse-style units in the base of the building here, facing 201A Street, each with individual townhouse-type entries to those units. The main entry to the building is here. We're adjacent to a lane, so we take our parking access off the lane. The site plan, so 201A Street running north-south here. We've got a lane on this side to the south and a lane on the east side. This is the existing 4-story building. which is adjacent to us. So our parkade entrance is here off the lane, across the street from some commercial businesses. We've got 18 visitor parking stalls on the surface here, which complies with the bylaw requirements. Here's our underground parking structure, all for resident parking. 107 stalls underground, which meets the zoning bylaw for parking requirements. Here's our ground floor plan. So we've got lobby located here. These D-type units are those two-story townhouses that I mentioned earlier. We've got a large south-facing courtyard here with amenities. We've got our indoor amenity space located here, a little over 2,000 square feet, which complies with the bylaw requirements. We're proposing two groups of adaptable units, which are essentially units that are designed with a little more square footage, a little more maneuverability, and they're easily adapted to people in wheelchairs. So larger doors, switches at different heights, blocking in the walls for future grab bar installation, and so on. We're in a downtown location. We see people aging in place in this location and feel that that's an important consideration. So we've done that on some other projects. We thought it would be appropriate here. So we've got 10 units in total which function that way. It's a typical floor plan showing the array of units. We have units from one bedroom in the 500-600 square foot range up to the largest of these townhome units, which is about 1,500 square feet. Exterior elevations, we're using a combination of cement fiberboard, some brick siding on the building, some cedar type accent siding. The building is elevated from the ground plane, again as a sense of security to the residents. Landscaping plan where we've got, this is the primary on the south side, primary courtyard. All of the units get sizable outdoor spaces so that they can have on ground level, have private patio spaces where they can get out and enjoy the outdoors, but it also provides a measure of surveillance for the area. Here's the southern courtyard, a mix of seating types, some play areas, more naturalized play is envisioned for children. We did have an independent security consultant prepare a CPTED report, Liahona Security. They identified a series of concerns. We are in a downtown core, so they looked at areas where there had been potential hotspots, they call them, areas where there have been crime areas. Amazingly, spots 1 and 2 are the site of our building, so we had a difficult building there. There were some real policing issues with those buildings. I think that a lot of folks are looking forward to having those issues cleaned up as a result of this project. A number of the strategies were similar to the previous project in that the main entrance is easily identified. We have the gating and security for all of the upper courtyard areas, closed circuit cameras to record any sorts of activities. One of the biggest things about this project is we're replacing a building which has been somewhat of a negative on the community, and we're adding a bunch of residents who are going to have a pride in that area, and they're going to become the advocates for that neighborhood. They're going to be looking out for what happens in the neighborhood. Sustainability principles, of course, one of the main things we're doing, we're not taking a greenfield site, we're taking a brownfield site, a developed site, and redeveloping it, which is making good use of land in our urban core. We're meeting high energy standards, exceeding the requirements of the building code through the ASHRAE standard. We are providing electric car charging stations in the parkade. A number of these issues I think were identified in the previous presentation as well. We had a public information meeting, 21st of February. We sent out invitations to about 200 households. It was lightly attended, 3 people attended. Sometimes no news is good news, so we had a neighbor from across the street who was a business owner who was really looking forward to having the site cleaned up, having some more residents across the street to support his commercial enterprise. His only real concern was parking during construction, that these things, a lot of construction workers, until the parkade gets constructed, where do we house them? The planning staff put us in touch with a neighboring property owner who has some excess parking, and we're negotiating with him to gain some worker access parking during construction. Once the parkade is constructed, the workers can all park in the parkade, and then the above-ground building can continue. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you. To the corporate officer, is there anyone on the speakers list?
No one.
No? Anyone in the audience wishing to speak on this matter? Once, twice? Seeing no one, motion to close this public hearing. Councillor Storteboom, Councillor Vandenbroek, all those in favor? We're going to be, don't go away because we'll be dealing with this later on. So, next item we have is council commence the committee of the whole. I need a motion to have council go into committee of the whole. Councillor Vandenbroek, Councillor Martin, all those in favor? Against, it's unanimous for. And this is for the development permit number 07-16 to accommodate a 5-lot subdivision of 20551 46A Avenue and 20566 Grade Crescent. And Mr. Minchuk will be assisting in this development only because there was an illness in the family on the person making the presentation. So, Mr. Minchuk.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council. Accompanying me this evening is Raja Baines, the developer of this property and owner of Pragati Construction. The area zoning map illustrates the location of the subject property, currently zoned RS2 estate residential, which supports a minimum lot size of 930 square meters or 10,000 square feet. The subject property is located within the estate residential development permit area of the City of Langley's official community plan, and as such, development permits are required for subdivisions. The proposed lot layout illustrates where the 5 lots are proposed to be located. Orienting you, the north arrow is in this fashion here. Grade Crescent is located here, and 46A Avenue here, with the extension of 46B Avenue located right here, a continuation of 46B Avenue. As you can see from this proposed lot layout, all of the single-family estate lots exceed the 930 square meter minimum lot size. The applicant has provided a topographic map which illustrates crudely, it's difficult to read clearly, the topographic constraints on this site. In addition, Coastland Engineering has provided detailed engineering site servicing for this development site, providing site services for lot number 5 off of Grade Crescent, lot number 4 south of lot number 5 off of 46B Avenue, as well as lot number 3 off of 46B Avenue, with 2 lots deriving their site servicing off of 46A Avenue respectively. In addition, the City of Langley requires, as noted in the staff report, extensive engineering service requirements, including a comprehensive stormwater management plan. Furthermore, this illustration shows an aerial photograph of the site that certainly has a number of significant trees, and as such, the City of Langley requires tree protection and a removal plan to accompany any subdivision application. In this particular case, the applicant has engaged the services of an arborist, Mike Fathom, to conduct a comprehensive tree assessment, some of which the trees, approximately there's 75 trees on the site, and with the removal plan and replacement plan in place, 25 trees will be replanted on the site, with the balance of the difference between the 75 and 25 trees will be provided to the City of Langley in the form of cash in lieu of trees, that the city will have the ability to use those monies for future tree application purposes. This is just a location map of the tree replacement plan. Furthermore, to further assist in dialoguing with the Mossy Estate residential neighborhood, the applicant, at the request of staff, has proactively designed the 5 lots homes. These are magnificent estate residential homes that were presented to the surrounding neighborhood when the applicant knocked on the doors, apprising them of what the plans are in store, not only to subdivide the property, but what the houses will look like in each and every respective lot. Further to that point, the applicant has received the support of area neighborhood residents. A variety of different letters have been signed. There was a couple Raja can speak to if asked that he was unable to contact specifically due to not being able to cross paths, but generally speaking, the consensus of the neighborhood was in support of what is being proposed. This is just an example of the letters of support for the proposed development permit application. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Members of council would be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. I'd like to ask the corporate officer.
There's one speaker, Chris Marshall.
Hi, my name's Chris Marshall. I live at 20615 46A Avenue, lived there for 32 years. I have no problems with the subdivision. My concern is that there's a lot of development on 46A at the moment, and I don't think enough attention is being paid to what the frontage of the properties would be, especially in these estate properties. Their proposal that I've seen on the plan is widening the road a little bit to allow for parking, then having a curb and the sidewalk. I think it would be much better in tune with the estate lots and the luxury end of things if it was the widening of the road, the curb, a boulevard, and then the sidewalk. That's really my only concern. And the progress of the sidewalks going on the street as a whole, I understand it was in this year's budget for at least one side of the street having sidewalks put in, because there hasn't been anything there for forever, and now there's more and more buildings going in there. So that just summarizes my concern, that's all. So I've spoken to the planning department, and they haven't been able to come back to me with an answer.
Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Minchuk will look into it with Mr. Baumhoff under Mr. Chung's guidance there, and they'll get back to you on that particular item. Is there anybody else on the speakers list? None? Seeing none. Any discussions? Okay. Councillor Vandenbroek.
Can I just get some clarification on the trees, please? We're going from 75 to 25 trees. Is that correct?
It's a total of 70 trees. It's a total of 70 trees, and out of those, we're going to be replanting 25 of them.
Okay, sorry. So you're completely removing all 70 trees?
That's right. Due to the services that needs to be done and the building envelope that we need to achieve.
So there's none that are savable on that lot?
25 are savable on that lot altogether.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Do you want to ask it now or later? Okay. Committee of the Whole Rise and Report. I need a mover. Councillor Arnold, Councillor Storteboom. All those in favor? It's unanimous 4. Then we'll go into this, and then you can ask your questions.
Thank you.
Councillor Bahal. Adoption of the agenda. Motion that the April 24th, 2017 agenda be adopted as circulated. Councillor Arnold, Councillor Albrecht. All those in favor? It's unanimous 4. Adoption of the minutes held here April 3rd, 2017, be adopted as circulated. Councillor Martin, Councillor Bahal. All those in favor? It's unanimous 4. So the first item arising from the public hearing is Bylaw 3017, the zoning amendment bylaw 5406, 5418, 5420, 198, and 19829, and 19831 54 Avenue. The motion is that the third reading of the bylaw cited as zoning bylaw 1996, amendment number 2100, number 134, number 2017, number 3017 as well. I need a mover and a seconder. Councillor Albrecht, Councillor Stordeboom. Okay, who'd like to speak to this? Councillor Bahal.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for putting in the sprinklers over and above. That is good considering situations we've had in our community lately. On to the question of traffic calming. It was mentioned that there was some traffic calming measures being put in place. Would you be able to elaborate on that? And I noticed there was curb bulges put in. And I know that that has been a response to what we did in another project.
That's right, and that's what I was referring to.
Okay.
So.
And it helps with parking as well?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
Councillor Arnold.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This particular item was discussed at the Advisory Planning Commission meeting, and it was recommended to council and approved by the Advisory Planning.
Thank you. Further comments? Councillor Albrecht.
Thank you for this presentation. I wanted to discuss the lighting impacts that the resident had brought up earlier, and I know it may be a little early in terms of the street lighting, and I'm sure that's what was being referred to. So I'm wondering at that time, the appropriate time, engineering could look at the lighting, spacing and levels to make sure that it's not going to be, let's say, worse than what it is out there right now. And I know that your worship has noted the traffic concerns, and we have had police out in that particular area, setting speed traps and monitoring traffic because of the playground, because of the increased parking. So I imagine we'll continue on with that and look at other measures that we may be able to reduce, mitigate, or alleviate some of the concerns in there. So thank you.
Further comments? To staff, is this one of the areas that's up for the traffic calming projects?
Yes, 198th Street is one of the streets for traffic calming in front of the park area, Bryden Park. Yeah.
Thank you. Anything further? Okay, all those in favor of this project? Against? It's unanimous 4. Next item is the bylaw 3018, zoning amendment bylaw 5630 and 5640, 201 A Street. The motion will be third reading of the bylaw cited as zoning bylaw 1996, number 2100, amendment 135, 2017, number 3018. I need a mover and a seconder. Councillor Martin, Councillor Stordeboom. Okay, discussions? Councillor Arnold.
A couple of questions for the developer. One is the laneway that runs off of 201A. That is where the entrance to the underground parking will be?
The laneway to the south of the site is where the underground entrance will be.
And that laneway, is that laneway going to be widened?
It's going to be improved, but I don't believe there's additional width being dedicated to it. It's just going to be resurfaced where needed, and I believe curbed, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, now the laneway that runs next to the fish and chip store, Is that the one that's going to be, is that going to be directly across from the underground entrance?
That's correct. So the back of the fish and chip shop is, there's a parking area and then there's a laneway. That is where
So traffic will be allowed to come through there from 56? Because
I don't know if we have an aerial
because they're not
photo
allowed to now. There's
that we
cars
could bring
parked
up.
there to go to the fish and chip store.
Yeah, we're not adding access from 56 to the laneway. So that's south of the project site,
So
unrelated to the project site.
if there are cars parked next to the fish and chip store in that laneway, there's going to be enough room for one car to get through to get to your underground parking.
Yeah,
And
so,
there's going to be a problem.
so I don't know if we can refer this to staff. I believe it is a 6-meter laneway, if I'm not mistaken.
Mr. Mayor, if I could draw council's attention to page number 89 of your council agenda to help navigate this discussion. Page 89. So the laneway coming off of 201A Street is currently an acceptable lane width standard of 6 meters. No additional right-of-way width is required. We have imposed as a condition of approval upgrading the lane to the city standard in its entirety along all the lane frontages respectively. To your point with respect to parking on the lane is not permitted and will be...
No, not on that lane. The laneway that comes from 56 beside the fish and chip store. And he says that that will be directly across from the other lane to the underground parking entrance. If you go in that laneway that runs north-south, there are signs right on the side of the fish and chip store that say fish and chip parking. There are always vehicles parked right there because they're in the fish and chip store. That does not leave, that's not then a double laneway through there. You can just barely get through past the cars that are parked there now. So if you're coming off of 56 through that laneway to get to this building, there's going to be a problem.
So if it's, are you able to see this on your side of the screen? So are you referring to this laneway? That's something that comes through? So this is the lane. Yes. This is the lane that we're gaining access to.
Yes, but I'm asking about the north-south lane.
Oh. Oh, here.
And is that laneway directly across from the entrance to your underground parking?
No, our underground parking entrance is approximately here. So they're offset, but I believe this is a piece of private property. It's not a laneway. This is a piece of private property which owns to the fish and chip shops. This is not a public lane.
Theoretically, nobody will be coming off 56th Avenue and going into your building. They will only be coming on the east-west lane off of 201A, and that's not going to be widened? Because that lane is not wide enough now.
So this is the lane, the east-west laneway, which is currently 6 meters in width, which complies with municipal standards for two-way traffic in a lane. So we're resurfacing, we're improving it.
People are going to be coming down that laneway and either turning right or left into your building.
Correct. We see primarily them coming from the west and turning left into the building. That's the movement that we envision.
Yeah.
So it's...
Obviously, you don't see the problems there's going to be, but there will be.
Yeah.
I thought maybe the building was going to be moved back a bit and the laneway widened or something, but...
Mr. Minchuk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through to Councillor Arnold. The current lane width of 6 meters is in fact adequate. What currently is the state right now is it's not constructed to the full proper width level. And that's what you'll noticeably see with this apartment project and the additional upgrading to the lane. It will be widened to the full 6 meter
Okay, well,
width
that's
standard.
what I was asking, because
I
the way
understand
it is
that.
now.
The confusion that I had, I apologize, is the lane that you were referring to is a piece of private property
Yeah.
providing access to the back
People will still try to
private
get through
parking
there
lot.
anyway.
Yeah.
Correct.
Further questions? Councillor Albrecht.
Thank you. It's not so much a question as a statement that this was reviewed by the Advisory Planning Commission and it was approved without any question or conditions. It was well received. They were very appreciative of the applicant's desire to put in the adaptable units over and above what the minimum requirements are. Providing visitor parking on the lane outside the building and separating that from the regular parking. Of course, the whole building will be sprinklered. The electrical vehicle parking as well as bicycles, and the adequate, we would seem adequate security measures that are also featured as well as the amenities. So thank you.
Further, Councillor Storteboom.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you for your application. I'm happy to see this building come into my neighborhood. I happen to be associated with the Paddington Station strata, which is immediately north of this site. And as you know, one of the buildings recently burned. So it too is in the process of being rebuilt. And as a result, I'm convinced that parking will be a serious concern for some of the contractors here. I would suggest that it might be to the best advantage of this development, Paddington Station, and the neighbors who live in my community there, that some kind of a shuttle service be arranged with parking off-site, because it's already pretty jammed up right now. Sure. And with all of these trades there, it's going to become really problematic, and I'm afraid that it'll be very frustrating for your workers, and I'm sure you'd prefer for them all to be doing their best without having to be frustrated with parking fines and that. Certainly. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Those good comments.
You are having discussions with the owners of the Me shopping area, which is that shopping center where the building was torn down right there. Yeah. So there are quite a few parking spots right in that area. That was the old school board building, I believe, that was sold and torn down. So
I believe the Paddington Station contractors are also looking at that site for themselves. Thank you.
Yeah. So I think to address my colleagues' concerns, I think you are working on that right now. There's no guarantees in life, but it's something that you're working on.
Correct, and the councillor is correct that the last thing we want is for workers to spend their day trying to find parking. We need them parked and working to get buildings built. So
not quite
we'll
Vancouver yet. Councillor Arnold.
Yes, the other thing too, what I see, I live right across the street from there, and what I see daily are people walking from the casino parking lot down 56 to get to where the construction is already going on with yours.
Interesting.
So there's quite a few parking a couple of blocks away that they're getting from.
Sure.
Further, Councillor Pahal.
Thank you. Just a quick question about the bike parking. So I noticed you have parking on the first and second floor, and did you have something also in the parkade as well?
Yeah, what we've done is we've split it up. There is some on the first level, which we think is quite convenient for residents. We also have, that provides about half of the bike parking. The other half is in hanging orientation above the noses of cars in the underground, which allows somebody to lock a bike in the security of the underground.
Okay, thank you.
Further questions? I'd like to commend the owner of this project on all the work that they have done. It's been in the process for approximately 2 years. It's been a project that has been very challenging, and the owners have assisted in individuals to relocate and help them out where required. So that is never an easy chore, to try to get people that are already living in a unit, condo project like that, or an apartment project like that, to relocate. And I understand that the owner has been working diligently to make things possible for those individuals that live there. And for yourself, the project looks great. As my colleague pointed out, the adaptable units, which is something very much needed in this community. So that gives individuals the opportunity of living in, moving upwards, I guess, in their suites, so, and still staying there. So I applaud APC members for assisting in that. So, thank you. I'll call the question. All those in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you. Maybe you can ask the owner to develop a few more places like that with adaptable suites and assisting on some of the...
This one under our belts first.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, the next one is development permit number 07-16. This is at 20551 46A Avenue and 20566 Grade Crescent. That the development permit application DP 0716 to accommodate a 5-lot subdivision be approved subject to execution of the development servicing agreement in compliance with the conditions outlined by the Director of Development Services and Economic Development Report. Councillor Martin, Councillor Albrecht. Any discussion? Councillor Pahal and then Vandenbroek.
Thank you. Just to follow up to the question from the resident about frontage, I just had a look, and if you look at 20550 and 20561 46A Avenue, which is directly across the street, if the subdivision does get approved by council, it'll be the same frontage. So that should be consistent, and maybe directed to staff about the questions about the timing for the sidewalk. Is there any update?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Relating to the lot width, the RS2 lot width requirement is 18 meters or 60 feet and is in compliance with the proposed subdivision. The second comment or question relating to sidewalks. Sidewalks, I was informed, are in fact reflected within the current financial capital plan. We're just not sure whether or not the sidewalk improvements are proposed on the north side versus the south side of the street, so we would have to get back to you on that.
It's just being done piecemeal at the moment. As each lot is being developed.
Yeah.
And it is just on the south side of the street. It is just a sidewalk.
On the south side.
There's not going to be any parking on that side of the street at all. by the looks of things.
Yeah, that sidewalk is being done with the developments, as the developments are proceeding. The sidewalk that Gerald mentioned is related to our capital, 2017 capital project, which
Okay.
will extend the full length of 46A.
In what year is that project?
This year.
It is this year then?
Yeah.
Thank you. I've got Councillor Vandenbroek and Councillor Arnold.
Yeah, I just have more of a comment than questions. I hate to see the entire thing and the trees going, and I just feel like I have to say something. Unfortunately, the decision is out of my control in that regards. I would hope that if you could keep more, you would. That seems to me an awful lot. I hate to see our community being torn into just pavement slabs and no landscaping, nothing being done with it. And we're seeing more and more trees being taken down by our developments, and I have huge concerns for that. So, the more you can keep, the better. Unfortunately, I just feel like that's just a lot of trees, 50 trees that we're going to be taking out for this. So I'm disheartened by it, that's all.
Definitely, we'll try our best. We'll have a word with our first again, and then we'll try to save, if we can, more.
Thank you. Councillor Arnold.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. This was another one that was looked at by the Advisory Planning Commission, and again, it was, unanimously approved and forwarded on to council, and was certainly supported by the APC.
Thank you very much, and thank you to APC for going over this. Councillor Storteboom.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a couple of questions from staff, if that's all right. One was with regard to that question about the boulevard. I don't know that it has been answered whether or not the curb would have a boulevard and then the sidewalk, or if the sidewalk would be immediately adjacent to the curb.
Yeah, the engineering standard is for the sidewalk, for a collector road to be right beside the curb.
I understand. Thank you very much. Also, if I may, Mr. Mayor, I just wanted to ask about that tree replacement policy. It's my understanding that funds will be collected for tree replacement in the future. Would you mind just quickly reviewing that for me? Because the trees that will not be replaced will be replaced at some point in the future at some other property, or am I mistaken in that?
Mr. Mayor, in response to Councillor Sturdivant's question, the city and the developer want to retain as many trees as possible. That's why we come and look at this subject area very seriously with the support and expertise of an arborist. Following a determination being made by an arborist on the tree removals based upon utility corridors and building envelope areas, a replanting plan is presented for review. In this particular scenario, the number of trees being removed from the site is far in excess to what is being replanted on the site, the difference of which will be bonded, and the developer will be required to pay a cash in lieu of trees in the amount of $200 per tree that is being shored. So we will have the ability, we'll put this cash in lieu of tree amount in a special account that council will have, or staff will use to augment the overall urban canopy within the city of Langley, using good common sense and best practices where we see fit. So we're not just simply setting aside the loss of the trees, we're putting a value to those trees, and those trees will be planted back into our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Minchuk. So it's my understanding then that the funds that are collected for those trees will be earmarked for trees in the future. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Minchuk.
Further questions? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Against? It's unanimous 4.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming. Next, we have Ms. Christine Simpson of BDO Canada and our CFO to do a presentation on our audit. And this is the adoption of the consolidated financial statements. And I'll
Thank you.
give you the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members, Mayor Schaefer, and members of council. Before you is the draft consolidated financial statements for the year ended December 31st, 2016. I'll make a few brief comments and then answer any questions you may have. On page 249 of the council agenda, the financial statements outline the city's management's responsibilities to prepare the consolidated financial statements and ensure the accounting procedures and systems of internal control are in place to safeguard the city's assets. The auditors examined the financial statements, and with us today, as you mentioned, is Ms. Christine Simpson from BDO Canada LLP, and she'll speak to her audit report shortly. I want to draw your attention to the next page on page 250 of the council agenda. This is the statement of financial position. The focus of the statement of financial position is really the final line of the statement, which is the accumulated surplus. We have an accumulated surplus of $273 million. That name is a bit confusing in the sense that it doesn't mean that council can go out and spend that money, because you actually already have. It reflects the long-term tangible capital assets the city has already invested in. It's more like the net worth of the city. Assets are a significant economic resource managed by the city and are the key component in the delivery of many of the services that we provide, like the distribution of water and sewage removal. Roads and buildings would also be included in this total. The assets increased $15 million in 2016, less the $5 million in amortization expenses and disposal of assets like vehicles that were being replaced. Over time, the accumulated surplus number is the one that we will want to track. As assets age, accumulated surpluses will drop due to the amortization. The city will want to ensure that we maintain and replace our infrastructure assets and maintain that dollar total. On the next page of the financial statements, in page 251, is our statement of financial activities, which shows all the city's revenues and expenses, which include the capital asset amortization that I just spoke about. The overall operating surplus, which includes water, sewer, and general funds, was $9,520. To this, we add the increase in the tangible capital assets and increase in reserve balances, which resulted in an overall surplus of $10.7 million. The operating surplus was resulting of higher revenues, lower expenditures, and other transfer to reserves. We directed $160,000 to the Capital Works Reserve, which was done before we came down to the $9,520. A 2016 financial plan bylaw amendment will be required later in the meeting to allow for the over-expenditure in the fire services, development services, and recreation, as well as the larger transfer to reserves that were noted earlier. Without going into too much more detail, that's what I wanted to draw your attention to tonight. I'll want to take this opportunity to thank Graham and the rest of my corporate services staff for the extra effort they put in to complete the city's year-end financial statements. If there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer them before we turn it over to Ms. Simpson.
Questions at all of Mr. Light? Seeing none, Ms. Simpson.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. We have, happy to be here tonight. We have met with Mayor and Council in camera to have our original discussion with them. We are substantially complete the audit. There are a few letters we need to sign to complete the audit, but we are in process to do that. First off, I want to thank management. It has been a very cooperative process. We have been able to complete the audit on a timely basis and far exceed of the deadline of May 15th for the ministry. As mentioned, we perform our audit to obtain reasonable assurance that the financials present fairly and have no material misstatements. As auditors, we use judgment to determine the type of procedures to perform and the extent of procedures to get this assurance. We will be providing a clean opinion once these final procedures are performed, and that will come soon. We have provided council and management with a confirmation of BDO's independence. We have had free and clear access to all information from management, so we were able to effectively and efficiently perform our audit. We were able to execute the audit in accordance with our plan, so there were no surprises in our process. I'm happy to say that we didn't find any significant deficiencies in internal controls. The accounting policies were consistent with the previous year and consistently applied, so we didn't have any new changes in policies that I need to bring to your attention. And as I mentioned, we have met with council and they have approved the statements, so we will go forward with finalizing the processes. I'm happy to answer any questions anybody has.
Any questions? So you spent a few days with staff going over all the books?
I'd say more than a few days. Almost 2 weeks. Graham took the brunt of it.
Graham took the brunt of it, did he? Yes. Did he take you out for a lunch at least, of all this hard work that you did? No?
I think my staff took him out for lunch.
Oh, okay. How's your stress factor then, okay?
We're good. It's a busy time, but we're getting through it all. That's good.
Great.
Yep.
Seeing nothing there, so I need a motion that City Council approve the 2016 consolidated financial statements. Councillor Vanderbroek, Councillor Pahal, all those in favor? Against? It's unanimous 4.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for
Thank you.
working for us, and hopefully we'll see you again next year. Under the Mayor's report, the next regular council meeting is May 8th. That one's televised. The one after that is May 29th. And Metro Vancouver, Councillor Stortaboom.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Metro Vancouver is rolling out a new awareness program with the hope of educating residents to, restaurants too, to stop dumping items down the drain that clog the municipal and regional sewer system. In fact, this is a national problem, and the cost of dealing with this issue across Canada has been estimated at $250 million per year. Cultural groups are invited to apply to Metro Vancouver Regional Project Grants. These regional project grants are available to support, research, create, produce, disseminate, and develop projects for enlarging audiences, enabling staff, and/or powering administrative capacities. The per project grants for 2017 will be awarded to a maximum of $10,000 per successful application. For more information, please contact Metro Vancouver and ask for Judy Robertson, 604-432-6205. Please note that completed applications must be submitted by 4 p.m. on Wednesday, May 24th. Immersion, the special musical collaboration between composer Jordan Nobles and Metro Vancouver, has won a 2017 Juno Award for Classical Composition of the Year. This unique composition, as you recall, was performed and recorded in the huge Brakehead tank before being put to use. The Brakehead tank is connected to one of the 7-kilometer twin tunnels that carry water from the Capilano Reservoir to be treated to the Seymour Capilano Filtration Plant. As you know, Metro's Council of Councils will meet here in Langley City at our Cascades Convention Center on Saturday. The Council of Councils is arranged to provide all municipally elected officials with an overview and update of important regional issues. The next meeting of the Board of Directors is scheduled for Friday. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Stordaboom. Next, we have library happenings. Councillor Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The library happenings for May, there's a few of them today. And starting with May is going to be a busy time for the Summer Reading Club in planning, outreach to schools, Strong Start centers, and other community locations. And they're also starting in the City of Langley Library the first teen advisory group. And on May 4th, 16th, and 30th from 3:30 to 5:30, we have employment skills for teens. This is an ongoing series of free workshops presented by Avia Employment, giving teens the employment advice, specialized services and support they need to find a meaningful and rewarding job, whether just breaking into the job market or looking forward to a future career. And on Tuesday, May the 9th, an outreach to Willowbrook Mall. Library staff and friends of the library volunteers will spend a day at Willowbrook Mall in the lead up to Mother's Day, distributing real Read, Learn, Play with Your Baby. These are books on literacy materials and making the public aware of the library's online resources, collections, programming, and services. Outreach to busy venues like Willowbrook Mall connects the library with people who may not already be in the library users. And the Teen Advisory Group that I just mentioned are meeting on Tuesday, May the 30th from 6:30 till 8. TAG members meet to organize library programs for teens, volunteers reading buddies, and help with library events. Meetings are fun and always include snacks. TAG membership looks great on resumes and college applications, and all activities earn volunteer hours. You can apply at the library, and they're always welcoming new members. The Essential Skills for Job Success takes place on Friday, April the 21st to May the 12th from 10:30 till 1:30. And this program runs for 3 hours each week and helps newcomers and Canadian-born adults improve their literacy skills in order to succeed in the workplace. It is free and offered in cooperation with the Langley Literacy Network. Library staff will familiarize participants with library resources and services that relate to literacy and employment. And Wednesday Wonders on April the 4th to May the 31st from 11 till 12 p.m. is a drop-in program for adults and teens with developmental challenges and their caregivers. Participants join library staff for songs, stories, crafts, and other entertaining activities that make all of our Wednesdays wonderful. And that's the library happenings for May. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Martin. It's a busy library lately.
It is, yes.
Very busy. Next item we have is Youth Week, May 1st to 7th. And as Councillor Arnold and Joe Pesci would say, Youth Week. So celebrate youth in our community during BC Youth Week. From May 1st to 7th in the City of Langley, Youth Week is celebrating and recognizing the value, diversity, and positive contributions youth make in our community. Be sure to catch one of the many events, including community garden planting on May 1st, 3-on-3 basketball tournament on May 3rd, an art show and art battle on May 4th, amazing race on May 5th, a youth carnival and barbecue on May 6th, and the Langley Walk on May 7th. To find out more about Youth Week in Langley City, visit city.langley.bc.ca. And I hope to see my youth guy over there at the Langley Walk. I know Councillor Arnold's just raring to go. Did I get you? Okay. So the next item we have is bylaws. That is bylaw 3014, zoning amendment to accommodate 98-unit apartment complex at 5393, 5455, 5457, 201 Street. And the motion is the final reading on zoning bylaw. Councillor Martin, Councillor Albrecht. All those in favor? Against? It's unanimous 4. Bylaw 3019, first, second reading of the bylaw cited as a zoning bylaw 1996, number 2100, amendment number 136, 2017, number 3019, and this is for a 4-story condominium complex at 19942 Bryden Crescent. I need a mover and a seconder. Councillor Martin, Councillor Arnold. Discussion. All those in favor? Against? It's unanimous 4. Next one we have is first and second reading of the bylaw cited as the zoning bylaw 1996, number 2100, amendment number 137, 2017, number 3021, and this is for an unzoned portion of land adjacent to 20416 Park Avenue to C1 downtown commercial zone. I need a mover and seconder. Councillor Pahal, Councillor Vandenbroek. All those in favor? Against? It's unanimous. And the next item we have is the bylaw for the tax rate bylaw, bylaw 3020. This is first, second, and third reading of the bylaw cited as the 2017 tax rate bylaw 2017, number 3020. Whew. I need a motion. A lot of numbers. Councillor Martin, Councillor Stortaboom. Any discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor? Against? It's unanimous 4. And the next one we have is a financial plan amendment bylaw, first, second, and third reading of the bylaw cited as the financial plan 2016 to 2020, bylaw 2016, number 2980, amendment number 2, bylaw 3022. Mover and a seconder. Councillor Martin, Councillor Vandenbroek. All those in favor? It's unanimous. Wow. And we have a small presentation coming forward. And Rick is going to give us a Hunter Park Task Group recommendation report. Or did I say Rick? I meant Jeff.
Thank you.
Rick, Jeff, Rick, yeah.
Exactly. Thank you very much. This is recommendations from the Hunter Park Redevelopment Task Group, and I'll just give a short presentation on how we got here today. Hunter Park, what it looked like in 2015 when I first arrived here, very healthy looking remnant urban forest. Unfortunately, over a number of years we had a number of failures and increasing failures. Upon investigation, as you know, we identified laminated root rot, came in with some consultants, and he came up with a strategy which unfortunately involved the removal of a large number of trees there. So we carried out those tree removals over October and November of 2015, leading us to its current state now. When you look at it now, compared to what it was, it's sad, but there's good structure in this park remaining. We still got a large number of cedars, evenly spaced throughout the park. We've got some nice pockets of native plantings that are in the surrounding trees. And it's going to be a good opportunity to redevelop this park into a neighborhood asset. It's sad that we lost the urban forest. Moving forward, we're faced with a number of restrictions based on the laminated root rot and other fungal areas that we found in there. We can't replant with hemlocks or firs for 40 to 50 years. So we're limited in our options to what we can do with the park. But we are moving forward. Council approved the Development Task Group, Redevelopment Task Group in February, and we moved forward fairly quickly. We held an open house with area residents on February 28th. Here in this room, we sent out letters to the neighborhood, and we had about 28 people attend that open house. And they got to review the options that were available, some of the restrictions that were there in the park, and some of the history where we got to. And we also took applications for the task group. We received 13 applications, which was everybody was interested in participating. We selected 2 directly looking onto the park, 2 within adjacent areas, and 1 from the PAC group. We met on March 21st. We reviewed the public input. I provided a concept plan, and they provided feedback on that plan, which I took away, and we had a follow-up meeting on April 11th with the revised plan, and they made recommendations to council to approve that. So some of the options that were presented at that public open house, we provided a kind of a voting list or a tick box sheet for people what they would like in a normal neighborhood park. The items highlighted in red are what 50% of the respondents wanted to see in the park. The stuff that was in black, they just didn't want to see, or they had 1 or 2 comments on others, but they never only mounted to 1 or 2 people's opinions. So some of the park amenities that we've chosen for that I put forth in the concept plan is they wanted a number of street trees, particularly flowering street trees and large park trees. And then the bottom right-hand corner is kind of the vision for the park. Just a nice meandering gravel walkway through, large trees, grass area, just a very passive neighborhood park where people can come and just reflect. Some of the other park infrastructure, new picnic benches, an overhead arbor entrance sign, replacing a number of broken, damaged chain link fences with a low rail wood fence, and protecting the park from vehicle access along 45A. And then we have a number of the timber that we used, the logs that we used in the park. We've got a lot of live edge slabs that we're going to create some of the low rail fences and create some park benches from the reclaimed wood, and also use it elsewhere in our park system. So this is the kind of the raw concept plan that's revisioned. It's got, when you look along 45A Avenue here, the stuff outlined in heavy black is the remaining cedar trees. So we do have good structural trees there. Playground in this corner, some picnic tables, and just a meandering walking circuit, if you will, that followed the natural pathways that people kind of beat down through the forest over the years. So a lot of open grass spaces, a lot of native pockets, screening of the backyards of the ones on 46 that had a forest back there. But everybody seemed quite pleased. We made a number of changes to it. Low rail fence protecting all along here and across the top here, and then just a nice gravel pathway through the whole thing. So this was the final plan that the task group, after the feedback I received from them, went back to the drawing board and presented this to them, and they approved it unanimously. So approved, recommending it to council for approval unanimously. Correct myself. So I guess thank you from the Hunter Park Development Task Group, and any discussions?
Councillor.
So unfortunate, but we go forward, and the plan looks fantastic. I'm so happy about using the trees that were destroyed and keeping them in that area within where they're from. I'm happy about the natural pathway. A lot of times we go into parks and we decide where the pathways are going to be, and it is wrong. The residents need to decide where those pathways are, because those are what they use, and when you change that, they just keep using them anyway, and it destroys the grass and everything you plant. So I just really like to thank you and your team for all the time spent and coming forward with this. I love it. It's what we had to do, and it's very positive, so thank you.
I've got Councillor Pahal and then Councillor Martin.
Thank you. I had the pleasure of serving on this task force and just wanted to note the high degree of skill we had. There was almost, I guess you must have been an arborist at one point / local historian. So one of the interesting things that was briefly noted is some of the research on the history of the park that will be put in a plaque, which will be really interesting for our local history. The plan was truly collaborative in nature with everyone on that committee. Everyone agreed unanimously, like you said, and everyone was very pleased when they walked away, and I believe that we captured the needs of the community. Another thing that's really important is that low-level fence for community members and the improved sight lines into the park, because traditionally there was illegal dumping going on there, and this should clear that up. So thank you again for your work and listening to the needs of the community.
Councillor Martin.
Thank you. Basically echoing what has already been said, I hope that you pass on our thanks to these community members. It's always nice when you go out to the community, ask for their input, and you get it. You know, so and I think the plan is lovely. Just sort of having nice meandering trails. The question I have is, when will it be started, and when do you expect completion?
So if council approves the plan, I'll put it out for tender almost immediately. I see, depending on the weather, starting fairly quickly, getting the groundworks and the site grading and the pathways, seeding of grass, and the fences in. Dependent on that time frame, I'm probably going to postpone the planting of the trees until the fall, just to ensure they take well and get watered through the winter rains. But I'd like to see the grading, site grading, scraping, pathway installations, grass installation this spring, summer.
Great. Well, if we have an opening, an official opening, I hope we get to meet all the task force, because they did an excellent job. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Councillor Albrecht and then Councillor Storteboom.
Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you and reinforce what previous colleagues said. But what I wanted to make note of was the successful venture into the use of a focused task group to get something positive done in the community. And I think that's a really effective way of getting things that not only the community wants, but it really helps staff get something done that everyone can take some pride in. And my hat's off and kudos to everyone involved. Thank you.
Councillor Storteboom.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Jeff, for your report. Yeah, it's unfortunate that these trees had to go, but they became a public safety concern. You couldn't tell from the outside if the tree was rotting on the inside, and it had the potential of falling down and maybe landing on something or somebody. So at this point, we're going to have a net loss of trees there, but the park will be more usable probably than what it was before, and I'm comfortable with that. My understanding is that this particular root rot, it travels from tree to tree through the root system. And I guess my concern moving forward is, do we have any idea how far this will progress through the neighborhood and the community, and if in fact there are trees on private property that are a potential for disaster?
The recommended tree buffer zone was the removal of trees within a 15-meter of an known infected tree, which took us all the way to the west side of the park. We did notify all the neighbors on that side that the trees just adjacent to their properties were infected, and I know that at least one of the neighbors had an arborist come in and review it and take down a number of trees on the property on the west side, and on the southwest corner they removed them as well. We've had a number of inquiries, of course, because it's received a lot of press from areas to the west as well on road allowance trees, and our arborist has done some extensive root clearing and root testing because she's learned a lot through this whole process. And so far, 2 road allowance trees that were concerns on the far west side have proven negative, and we are, over the course of however long, going to be mapping every single tree that we investigate and document that there is either, yes, infected or not infected. So,
thank you very much. So we're reasonably sure that it is contained. There's no guarantees, of course. I suppose it's a matter of awareness and keeping the public informed. And if, in fact, this is ongoing, then we should maintain relationship with the neighbors, especially concerning their trees.
Yeah.
Thank you very much again for your report. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you to your staff who worked very hard on this, and I know it wasn't easy, and you have some very talented staff there that use some of the reclaimed trees, and it's I'm looking forward to seeing what a couple of those little benches look like.
Yes, the crew's excited about putting them together.
Yeah, give them an attaboy, could you please?
I will, yes.
Thank you very much. I need a motion now that council approve the redevelopment plans for Hunter Park as recommended by the Hunter Park Redevelopment Task Force. Councillor Albrecht, and I got to add Councillor Pahal in there, since he was on there. Yeah. We all agreed, yeah. Yeah. So all those in favor? Against? It's unanimous for.
Thank you.
So the next item we have is an out-of-province travel request that the Director of Development Services and Economic Development be authorized to attend the 54th International Making Cities Livable Conference in Santa Fe, New Mexico from October 2nd to 6th, 2017, and the expenses be paid from the Development Services and Economic Development Continuing Education Travel Account. Councillor Martin, Councillor Arnold. Martin, all those in favor? Against? And one of the reasons our director is going down is that McBurney Plaza has been chosen as a finalist, is it? Is a finalist? As selected into the conference, into the mix, right. So it would be great if McBurney is recognized there. So all those in favor? Against? Oh, I did it. Anyway, let's do it again. Yeah.
3 times lucky.
3 times lucky. Anything else? None? Old, new? Anyway, I need a motion to adjourn. Councillor Stortebroom, Councillor Arnold. All those in favor? It's unanimous.